Okay, so I'm here on the air for the internet to see. Join on in. It's going to be great. Until then, you're going to just kind of get to see me doing my thing for anyone who might peruse by this way and watch. So, see what happens. I'm going to talk because this is being recorded, so that way at least we can cover some airtime if and when we ever decide to, share this broadly. So, Google Hangouts, I think, is a unique technology for connecting people. I'm also trying to load it on my phone, so the idea is that you can literally be connected to people wherever you are. It's what we're trying to do with an online church movement, is connecting people where you are. So let's just make that happen all the time. I'm here in Jackie Lewis's office. She is the senior minister of the church, and it has some nice natural lighting coming on this side. If I do this, then suddenly you can't see me anymore because I'm, very angelic. So I'll stick with the angled shot for now. And let's see, I'm trying to sign in on my phone so I can see how this works with two views and or the phone. So worship just finished next door, and you're either stalking me by watching this or you are actually here joining us. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Oh, people are saying they can see me. You can see me! People can see me. Oh, this is freaky. Okay. Hi, everyone. So good to see you, Tony and Renee. Renee, is that Natalie? Natalie Perk, I'm guessing, is Natalie. And Keith, hello. So glad to see you stalking me through the thing. This is not how it's supposed to work. This is the beta test, the alpha test. We have viewers. Okay, come on, people. Why can't you be on the thing? I don't know how this works either. There's got to be a way to do that. Keith, you're like my pro here. Why? How does this work? How do we get people involved into the thing? Nope. Looking at buttons. 4 viewers. Hi, viewers. So glad to have you. So you're not supposed to just hear me talk. The point of this is that we could all talk. Maybe if I hit this little button. Okay, I am going to copy a link and post it in the thing. So, okay, hello, everybody. Oh, Athena's here too, and your dog. Oh, I need to meet your dog via Google Hangout. So, okay, I'm posting a link. Try this link. See if it opens up something. You should get a magical window where your face joins my face, and we can all chat together. But it truly is wonderful to know that we're almost connected. This also means I can see the stats, like we went from 4 viewers to 3. Who was it? Just kidding. Churches should not be about shame. Guilt is not necessary. When we have grace, we should have gratitude instead. That was Reformed theology, kind of. Okay, I'm still working on how to get you in here. Keith, if you know a trick, make it happen. Keith Anderson is, voyeuristically with us. He's a friend of mine in Dublin, near Philadelphia, and he is a pastor of a church. It is wonderful to know that we're almost connected. I think Keith is here. Look at that! Someone worked! Great. Hello. Maybe the trick is to talk about people, and then their internet will connect. So if I just start talking about Natalie and Athena, they'll magically show up. Maybe. I don't know. Hi, Keith.
Well, that link worked.
That link worked. Perfect. Yeah. All right. I think Keith is here. Look at that! Someone worked!
All right.
Maybe the trick is to talk about people, and then their internet will connect. So if I just start talking about Natalie and Athena, they'll magically show up.
We can see you. Can you see us, Jim?
Yes.
That link worked. That link worked.
Perfect. Yeah. But okay, is anyone else getting like time warp problems? Because the minute both of you joined, it like replayed the conversation I just had.
That link worked. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you see us, Jim?
Oh, no, I can see yes. No, perfect. But okay, getting like time warp problems.
Yes.
The minute both of you joined, it like replayed the conversation I just had.
That link worked. Perfect. You might have to close a browser tab for the Google Plus page.
No, I can see yes. You have to close the tab on Google Plus. I'm getting just
For this one?
lots of noise.
Oh, is that better?
Oh, that's better.
Oh, we had Renee up for a minute, and then we lost her, I think.
That's better. I think we had 2 tabs up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to point fingers or anything, but
But you can point them right here.
hey, I could have been pointing at Keith. You never know.
The
I'll
wonders.
see Renee briefly. We had another person join us ever so briefly. It was interesting. Well, hey, this experiment is already a success because there are people from all over, the eastern seaboard looking at each other in the digital eye of their computer. Fantastic. Tony, Athena, good to see you and hear your voices and to meet your dog. And Keith, meet a couple of our members from Middle and their dog.
Hi.
Hi, Keith.
Keith, you're probably well, I guess we're a tiny group at this point, but of us, you're the who is this stranger who just randomly I've never seen at Middle, yet he is on this thing that Middle is doing. Do you want to just, maybe tell Tony and Athena why you do things like this and all the, all your language that I steal from you when I say digital cathedral and everything?
An internet church stalker? No. I'm a Lutheran pastor near Philadelphia, and I do a lot of work with social media ministry. I write a lot about it, and I'm working on a new book project now that talks about digitally integrated ministry. And so it's something Jim and I talk about a lot, and when I saw he was doing this sermon talkback, I thought, wow, that's a great idea. So just kind of checking in and see what got preached at Middle, too. It'd be interesting to compare notes.
Yeah. So Tony and Athena, where are you currently sitting? Are you in New York? And if so, why haven't we gone out for drinks yet? I'm assuming you're up somewhere in the main area, or am I just completely off base?
Is the wood a tip-off? Is this it?
Maybe. That doesn't look quite like the typical aesthetic.
We are in upstate New York, where Athena lives. So that's why we haven't gone for drinks, which is a shame, but yeah, so I live in Brooklyn and Athena lives here upstate, and so we kind of split our time, and it is much more pleasant up here during summer, so we've been up here for most of the month.
Nice,
yeah.
Nice. Well, it looks lovely. And does the dog go back and forth, or is that little fella relegated up to upstate all the time?
Yeah. This is definitely his first church-going experience. So.
We'll be having the blessing of the animals, I think October 12th. So you should make sure he comes along. We'll get our allergies on. It'll be fun.
We pass the keys with him when we watch online. So
yes.
We've received lots of keys.
Yes. Nice. So Keith, I'm sure you were busy doing your own church world. You did not make it for the live stream. You made it just for this.
No, I was my own live stream this morning. So,
yes. Yeah.
3 services, 3 sermons.
That'll keep you busy. So Tony and Athena, you were viewing on the interwebs. Now this is going to serve multiple purposes. One, we can actually have a conversation about what just happened, but it also is going to be the whole people who are using the internet for church. How's it going? How can it be better? I mean, Tony and Athena, you're good examples of people who are part of the Middle community, but sometimes you find yourself upstate. So it's the sense of how is the live stream working? How could things like this work well or better? We obviously had a slight hiccup, but we made it through. What was your experience this morning? And then making it over to a Google Hangout like this? Also, we might randomly get joined by anyone because this is happening live on the internet. So whatever you say might be heard by my mom. Just putting that out there.
Great. My mom too. Live stream in general, I want to disclose up front that we missed the sermon. Watched before and after, but was making a big breakfast scramble right in the middle. So we saw last week's sermon online. The streaming in general, I think it's really nice to be able to stay connected especially because we go back and forth and to feel like not everyone's a stranger when we've been upstate for a while.
Yeah, it's really nice, especially because I think even from Brooklyn, it's we live so far into Brooklyn that it's even then it's kind of hard to get to church. It's kind of nice to just be we can't make it to church today, but we can watch it. We can watch it online, and it feels really good to be able to do that. And I think it works really well. We never really have much of a delays or it doesn't seem slow or anything, and you guys are always so attentive to like make sure that we know that you're also thinking about us. Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah.
That's the hope. I have dreams and schemes for like a roaming camera during the passing of the peace and things, so ways in which that virtual and physical experience can be brought closer and closer together. And I'm currently conspiring a sermon. I don't know when I'm going to do it or what exactly, but I want to craft a sermon that's intentionally written for the online experience first, and then essentially let everyone in the room get seconds, as opposed to typically things are crafted for the physical experience and then we rebroadcast it online. So I'm perpetually scheming, and it'd be good to know, even we can coordinate your upstate Brooklyn schedule, so I can know you're watching, you and my mom and occasionally Keith from Philadelphia.
Right.
Okay, well then we are a good focus group. We'll call it that, since this is literally the beta test. This is the result of a meeting I was in this past July, where, as you all know, I'm obsessed with anything that has a little camera on it and can enable me to tweet. And as that gets brought up in meetings with the other clergy, sometimes it's said then, okay, Jim, let's try something. And I'm like, okay. So this is the let's try something, which we're hoping even to make this kind of a thing an ongoing thing. We want to be intentional about cultivating an online, like, virtual spaces for people to connect. There were a few people from California who normally would join us who were traveling this week, so they couldn't be here digitally because they were where there was no cell phone service. Otherwise, you're like, why couldn't they just pull out your phone? That's the beauty. There's no excuse ever to miss when it's virtual. So questions from all of us, since I'm the only one who actually saw today's sermon. This probably will not be so much of a sermon talk back, since fail. It's all good. Grace, not guilt. Remember, did you hear my little Reformed rant? What could this kind of a medium, what could be done so that a virtual church is more than just, Netflix, where you turn it on and it's on in the background? Because the live stream is essentially that. We might occasionally look into the camera, but it's never you get to talk to someone else. What could it be? What should it be? Keith, you do this stuff. Tony and Athena, you are this generation, and you're doing it right now. So, and the dog is saying something. What do you guys think?
About it. He's got ideas, and I wish
she wants you to hear him out.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about too, because I think this virtual experience is very different for I think me and Athena, because I do feel also physically connected to the church, even though we're very new members. But I can't imagine if I had never even been to Middle, what that experience would be like, just watching online, not knowing what you guys look like in flesh.
I always like seeing how many people are watching. I think it kind of makes you feel good, just 21, 23. It's nice to know that there's other people watching, and I don't know, that. I think that also makes me feel like I'm not alone in watching. When I watch Netflix, for example, it's me watching whatever show I'm watching, but I'm doing it with other people that are also doing it. So I think I like that about it.
Nice.
Is that another person for a second?
No, it's two Keiths.
Oh.
You have a double Keith.
No, I see two Keiths now.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Yep.
You take up.
We have two of you, though.
Oh.
But only one's talking. It's okay. Your twin brother is remaining silent and very motionless as well. Keith, what about from your end? You have literally written the book on this stuff. What have you done? What are we doing right now that you're like, way to go, Middle? Or what are you thinking ooh, Middle's into innovating. Here's some things they should try, and I'm going to say it to a pastor and to members of the church, because then they'll have to do it.
Oh yeah, that's how it works.
That's how it works. It's not Lutheran polity.
When I saw that you posted about it, I just thought it was great, because I've been writing about this kind of shift in the way we do theology, in that, the idea that somebody stands up and talks for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes or whatever, in a monologue, whether it's teaching something in church or a sermon, it's that's seems so strange all of a sudden when we have all these different voices in social media. So people are engaging all the time in real time about it. and then how do we create spaces either during the sermon or after the sermon for, not just the coffee hour, oh, that was nice, or, just like the kind of little niceties, but how do you kind of dig into, thinking about the text and giving other people a real chance to reflect out loud, and then, and have you, again, kind of reflect back on, because I think sometimes as preachers, we think we're saying one thing and we might be saying a different thing, or it's experienced in lots of different ways. So I think it can be helpful for the preacher, too, to hear what people are thinking and what they took from it.
Yeah. It usually comes in handy to know that, oh, just because it all made sense in my head doesn't mean it's going to make sense in yours. And what does the dog think? Those are the important conversations that you typically can't have on a Sunday morning at a church. Because of the internet, we can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is exactly our hope, is to do that, to create, to democratize or create this radical equity in the context of the church, where it's not simply the people with fancy degrees who are the self-proclaimed experts. It's like, okay, I might know some things. I went to school. It's like my doctor knows some things. They went to school for that, so I trust them. Yeah. But at the same time, all of our voices and opinions matter.
Right.
Yeah.
And ministry and just being church is just so relational too. I mean, which I think we're kind of recovering a lot of that now. So it's an art, not a hard science, I think. How do we recover that kind of relationality that should always be there, but sometimes we distract it.
Okay, let's talk about technology, though, because I think we're experiencing it now. So, Tony and Athena, we just lost you for a moment, and then you rejoined. Did you, stop seeing us? Did the internet black out in Upstate? This is, purely logistical question for the future of these sorts of things, so we all know what kind of bumps to expect.
Either my computer froze or our internet cut out, just normal bumps.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are the things you don't face this, in a physical setting. Well, I guess you kind of do. People still kind of just zone out. It's the same thing, maybe.
Yeah, my microphone that microphone just kept coming off my ear the whole time, shoving it back onto my. I'm trying to preach and be a communion, so we still run into some of those snags.
Yeah, it's gonna happen either way. Well, Tony and Athena, now that I have you on the internet here to see your face, you saw last week's sermon. You've been upstate for the whole summer, or just the past few weeks, or what's your rhythm been?
Yeah, for the past few weeks we've been upstate. Before that we were in Massachusetts, and before that we were in Tennessee.
You were all over. What part of Tennessee? I was in Tennessee a couple weeks ago.
We were in Mountain City. It's next to Boone, North Carolina.
Okay, so not near Knoxville.
Really far from Knoxville.
Okay, I really don't know geography at all about anything, unless it's Brooklyn, Manhattan, or Michigan. But even then, I'm spotty.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're not describing the exact cross street I'm referring to, I have no idea how close we are.
Yeah.
Such as Tennessee.
Tennessee.
So you've been all over the place, occasionally checking in online. What's the vibe you've been picking up from Middle over the summer? What have you connected with? What have you resonated with? What do you have questions about?
Let's see. I guess I've been hearing here and there about next year's theme, God's home.
Mm-hmm.
Or what is it called? God's house.
In God's household, yeah, because the fun play on words is the Greek word oikos is household, and it's also the root of where we get the word economy. So let's just look at economics from the sense of if the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, if this is all God's house, how do we talk about any sort of resource, any sort of relationality? So, yes, continue.
Yeah, and I often watch sermons while I'm cooking. So sometimes I get just the sermon even without the scripture, and I kind of put it together. What are you talking about? Without seeing the whole sermon. Without seeing the whole service. But anyways, this idea of God's house, I think I've also been thinking a lot about is since we have been in so many different places this summer, and we kind of make plans for what kind of place we're be in the future, and I don't know, I like the idea of exploring place, how to find God in different places, and what kind of environment is conducive to feeling in touch with God or your true self or whatever. Yeah, so I've been thinking about that lately.
Absolutely.
And I loved Chad's parable.
Yeah, wasn't that? I mean, I realized it as he was preaching it that I was like, oh, of course, Chad's preaching about parables, so of course he's going to simply tell a parable. I mean, that's what Chad does most of the time anyway. But it was the irony and the meta context of a parable about a parable was pretty profound, I thought.
Yeah, I feel like whenever I think I have my number on Middle Church, like, oh, I understand like the style, like something really different like that happens. I'm like, oh, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no kind of like this is how it has to be done style. I mean, I remember even last August, because Tony and Athena, how long have you been coming to Middle? Was it last fall you guys started coming?
Winter.
Winter, okay. I'm barely newer than you. I'm a year into this place. Last summer was when I came on staff. But I remember thinking, how am I going to preach here? Like, are they going to let me just stand up and talk and move my hands and hold up an object or sit on a bar stool? Like, well, do I have to be behind a podium of some sort? And then I remember Chad did a sermon last August where he didn't have any notes and he had nothing on the stage pulpit area. It was just empty. And I was like, okay, I'm allowed to do whatever I want now. Which the two of you have, seen a handful of times that I do indeed do whatever I want. And Keith, you can probably only infer from knowing me the kinds of things I might do.
No, I've seen some of them, like the flash mob one, the Twitter one, the light in the darkness one.
Those are all the early ones. You're missing my sweet spots, but it's all right. It's all right. I found a groove in the spring here. It was, or I just ended up preaching a lot, so which was fun for someone who has never stopped growing fond of hearing his own voice come out loud, much to the detriment of the people around me. I'm speaking as the youngest of three siblings, so they were my first church congregation. Although then it was simply called the Jimmy Keat Show, and it was my talk show that I would hold in the back seat of the car on road trips. My dad was the pastor, so we actually had a church, but I just wanted to be a pastor. So you're just all stuck to the victimization of that dream, hoping to become a reality someday. Now I get to do it on the internet. So it's all good. Yeah, in God's household, that's going to be coming up, including internet connections.
I was wondering about, because you guys do so much like around the city, and like so much like activities that like I kind of like really would like to be a part of, but like being like in and out, I think that's one thing that I feel like I'm missing out on is being able to just be like more active. I'm wondering if there's any plans for that, anything we could do from like not being able to constantly be around. That's one way that I kind of feel like I kind of always feel a little bit like I really wish I could be like more active.
More than just being present in a gathering on a Sunday, or even being part of the debut pilot team for the Middle Church online sermon talkbacks, which is pretty. Add this to your resumes, people. No, you bring up a really good point, and ultimately, I mean, I guess not so secretly, the whole let's grab drinks that I've been, hanging over your heads for like months now. That's a huge part of what we want to meet with new members for, is to say, hey, we're here for you, whatever you need, however we can support you. Also, here are a handful of ways that you can connect more with the church. So that is the conversation that we continue to postpone, along with coffee or drinks or whatever, because our travel schedules continue to collide. Even though we were in Tennessee at almost the same time, doesn't count. No, I think the question there is like, what arenas would you be interested in? And you don't have to answer that right now, but there's I think two things. There are some things that Middle has continued to do over the past couple years, but we've been under gigantic construction, everything. And when that wraps up, it's going to open up just a lot more things happening in the local context. So to some extent, some of the things that have been happening over the past, 18 months, it's been a matter of how do we maintain some things that aren't building-centric, or ways we can support things or partner with other organizations, and we've had to decentralize a lot of our work, which has been a really good thing to continue to recognize the church is never bound by four walls and a steeple. But those four walls and a steeple do give you, your own key to your own front door, which means you can host your own food pantry and clothing closet and various programs and things, which will all kind of roll back into place starting this fall and this winter and next spring. So yes to that. Let's talk about exactly that. We're all a little biased, so I'm going to try to convince you to come to Pub Theology and all the things that I host and lead and be connected to, just because I'm spending time planning them and I think they're fun. But there are many, many things And we don't ever want you to feel overwhelmed like you have to do them all, but it's the sense of, as you have desire and availability, we definitely want those connections to happen.
I think part of the, one question too is, well, how, when you're far away, just thinking out loud, does technology allow you to participate? Like, this is an example. There, you can watch the service, but if you're watching online, you don't get that kind of interaction with people. So this is one way to do that. What's a way to do advocacy, or kind of alongside the advocacy you do in the city? Like, how, when you're afar, how does technology enable people to participate in that in some way? Whether it's, I don't know, if you have a Twitter hashtag campaign that goes along with whatever it is you're doing, or I don't know what, but it's an interesting question how people can participate in that level as well.
Yeah. Well, I am up for exploring it. I think this will be the year of getting back in the building, which means things will happen, but also it will inevitably become the year where Jim tries more new things online with Middle, just because I've got a year under my belt, so I can flex some new muscles now. Things like this, like even thinking like the two of you were out of town for Pride weekend, right? The end of June. Yeah. Like what if, I don't know if there's legalities involved or if my data bill would just go through the roof, but like if we had a live Google Hangout marching in Pride, and it's like you can join us for the Pride March from Middle's crew and be a part of it all 2 miles or something, and be me and my cell phone for 2 miles of walking through New York. But various things to allow participation and connection from locally or anywhere that you have an internet connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like it. And the best thing about doing these is we get to see your dog too, which I have not met. Does the dog have a name? I continue to refer to this dog without gender or name because I don't want to offend anyone in the room. But let's just clear the air. What is this dog's name and gender expression?
He is Finn.
Finn. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Excellent. That's my son's name.
Like a big boy, so he's gone.
He's guarding
He's guarding the door.
Ooh, that's good. Keeping us safe. Keeping us safe. Well, given that this was, in many ways the pilot attempt at this with how does the technology work, the hope in some ways is to do these every quarter. We want to try like these post 11:15 worship things. So, whether you're here or upstate or wherever, we want to begin some regularity that's sustainable for me to manage. And then we're also hoping to do online new member gatherings because we have people joining the church from all over the country. And we want to give them a touch point as well, which I think as the two of those happen, we'll have more and more people doing this. Yeah. All that to say, there's no and now we go to the small group questions. There was no, because you all skipped the sermon anyway. Just kidding, no shame.
I'm curious. What did you preach on?
Well, I didn't preach.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Show me my cards. Yes, it was not me. It was the Elisa Joyce, who is our assistant minister for children and youth. I preached last Sunday night, and I have a few weeks off, which is nice. But the sermon was on, let's see, are either any of you familiar with the Freedom Summer that happened 50 years ago in Mississippi? Mm-hmm. There was a documentary on PBS a while ago. We watched it in the Adult Ed in the Sanctuary a couple weeks ago. Children's Defense Fund continues to work with Freedom Schools. Thousands of college kids go down for this community organizing event to get people in Mississippi for voter registrations because the black population was the highest population in Mississippi but the lowest registered to vote, and there was a whole lot of reasons why. Like if a black person would register to vote, they were more often than not they were employed by a white family and their job would be at risk even. So there was a whole lot of political pressure everywhere. So it was registering people to vote, starting Freedom Schools, which advocated for literacy and education in black children because their schools were largely underfunded, and organizing the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which went to Atlantic City to contest the all-white Democratic representations for the Democratic National Convention, which that was the instance when Fannie Lou Hamer was a black woman from Mississippi. She was speaking at the convention, and President Lyndon B. Johnson called an impromptu press conference to get her off the air so he could just take over the air, the TV stations and everything. But her thing ended up becoming more popular anyway because everyone heard about the scandal of Lyndon B. Johnson being an ass, which anyway. So Elisa preached on that. That was part of it. It was introducing that. We had someone with us who was a reporter there 50 years ago when he was in college, and he was here. He was in worship doing some stuff as well. But she connected it to the lectionary passage today was Jacob returning home after his whole, finding himself experience away from home. So it's the whole wrestling with God, coming back to his brother Esau, who's going to kill him. And the point that Elisa pointed out was how he sends his wives and children across the river ahead of him to meet Esau first. And there's whole lots of contextual understandings for what was going on there. But Elisa's question was simply, she's like, I want to ask the questions about the text that might make us uncomfortable. And this one is, why is it okay that we see a narrative where Jacob is sending his family essentially to be the shield before someone who might be killing him, and they don't, according to the text, they don't even get to have a voice in the matter. Where is their voice? Where is the voice of the voiceless, or the seemingly voiceless? So connecting to, they are sent on this thing with no say in the matter, or so it seems, and then looking at the ways in our world where voicelessness persists. So cradle to prison pipeline, why do we live in societies where we just perpetuate systems of voicelessness versus advocating on behalf and giving voices where it needs to be? That's more or less the direction it went. It should be online today or Tuesday or something, so you can all do your homework in hindsight.
Catch up.
Yeah, that was my 30 seconds or less version, at least. We'll see.
That was great. I don't think I could summarize my own sermon that well.
It also proved that I was paying attention, which is good. And yeah, which is fun. Yeah, so that was that. We'll do these again in the future, though, and maybe even the preacher, or I'll have preached, and it will be the person who can say, well, I don't know. I'm interrupting myself. If the person who just preached were to sit here, and we all had watched the sermon, it might create this, like, yeah, you did great, here's all the ways that God changed my life, versus the, like, yeah, that thing didn't make any sense. What was going on there? Completely missed this point. I don't know, what do you guys think? What is it better to have the celebrity in person or to get to say whatever you want about them behind her or his back?
To the internet.
There is that.
I kind of like having maybe like the same person doing the what do you call it? Yeah, they hang out, because then you kind of get used to them. Because I think one thing about Hangouts that is really hard is like getting used to the rhythm of it. Because you're getting cut off, you kind of have to like wait for it, and if there's more people. I've done Hangouts like meetings, and those things are terrible, where you're just like 10 people trying to like communicate like a strategy through the internet. But I think it's like you start getting used to like how that person interacts on the internet, and it might be nice to like just be able to like debrief with the same person. At the same time, I don't know. Like maybe I don't know. I feel like I would like that, like to like have the debrief with like a person that I'm already used to. But I could be wrong.
Are you saying you would like the person who did the sermon, or you would like a neutral person?
Like a neutral person.
Are you a neutral person?
Yeah, like Jim. Or like a neutral person that that I feel like I don't know.
Well, I hear that. That makes sense. I think
Yeah, I think that does make a difference. I think the more honest feedback is going to come from somebody who didn't, preach the sermon. You don't want to, you respect what they've done, but you wouldn't want to feel like you're, hurting their feelings about it. I mean, I think as a preacher, I'm sure like the real scuttlebutt on my sermon gets, it's around coffee hour when I'm not there. So people really think. Otherwise, they walk out and they say, nice sermon, pastor, nice sermon, pastor, nice sermon, pastor.
Yep.
So I agree. I think a neutral person is probably better for opening up the conversation.
And even if it is consistently me, which I think the way we're testing these this year, I'm probably the one who is going to be pushing all the buttons and connecting the codes of the internet to do this. But I don't think my preaching typically is evening, so I would be surprised if it ever aligned where we'd be doing an online sermon talkback, narcissistically around me. But there is, I'm a neutral-ish party, but I still do wear a badge that, has my name and a title at the church. So, which I think might be good, though, because it means, okay, this isn't just, free-for-all coffee hour. There is some middle church structure, point of view, or I can step in and clarify, or that actually wasn't, or be the advocate of, like, that's a great point. We didn't even think of that, or I'm sorry, or I'm going to pass that along, or whatever. So it's comments that can go somewhere. They're directly connected to a senior staff meeting, because I'm going to walk into one on Wednesday and get to be like, they all said the internet is the next best invention and we should do more, or whatever. They all liked my tie. Actually, you didn't. I'm just projecting. All right. Well, I don't want to make anyone linger longer, because Tony and Athena, I'm sure your breakfast is done by now. It sounds like you ate that during the sermon. That's right. Sorry. Well, then on to brunch for the rest of us. Any other thoughts or questions or things you want to say to the internet?
Interesting. I feel like I have such a mixed relationship to the internet. Like, I actually don't have Twitter, Facebook, or anything, but this has felt more real in a way that the internet often doesn't feel real. And by real, I mean like authentic real. So I like this. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's cool for me. Like, I mean, I've never met you guys before, so I mean, I know Jim, but I've never met you guys, and it's kind of cool that, I mean, you wind up swimming in a lot of the same circles, like on Facebook and Twitter, even though there's all these people out there. You're kind of within your group. So this is cool that you get to connect people from very different places and experiences and voices, and we can connect.
Yeah. So long as we have good internet connection. We are at the hands of Time Warner Cable or whoever your monopolized internet provider might be.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, there will be more of this vein happening in the future, and Tony and Athena, sometimes you'll be in town, so we won't have to relegate you to the internet all the time. But for the times when you are, we want to do whatever we can to make those connections be as authentic as possible. And when you are back in town, let's get ourselves scheduled up for a drink of something or a conversation about everything. So good. Keith, thanks for joining us as well for the inaugural Middle Church Google Hangout.
Thanks for letting me sit in.
For sure, for sure.
Great to meet
Enjoy your Sundays. Yeah. And good to meet Finn, too.
Sleeping. He's sleeping tired.
It's okay.
Conversation tired.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks so much. Enjoy your Sundays from here, and I'll see you all sometime in a physical or digital space.
Great.
Right.
See you all.
Bye.